Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Pitch, Season 1, Episode 7. It's called San Francisco. Full spoilers for the episode as always. Connor, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it was alright. I thought it was a bit weaker than the last couple, but still
Yeah,
pretty good.
well, the last one was like the best episode of the show yet, so it's
Yeah.
kind of unfair to expect to hold that up again, but yeah, I thought there was some good stuff. I did think we've kind of returned, because this is interesting, is the flashbacks in this one weren't of Ginny. They're going the lost route and they're giving other characters flashbacks,
Mm.
which I think is a fine idea, but I don't know if they were necessarily that good.
And that's also a concern going forward. It's like, okay, now they've established that this is the route. Do we really need or want flashbacks for everyone?
I don't know, like, I feel like what I've heard about Oscar, for example, is a good amount of stuff that I feel like I get his character. I don't know if I need to see him struggling as a teenager or whatever.
It'll kind of just feel like, beating you over the head with it.
That said, though, if they do more flashbacks for Mike as a teenager and they just use footage from Saved by the Bell, I'm okay with that as a as an option. Sure, there
Mm.
must have been an episode of that show where he played baseball.
Must have been. There was enough of the damn things.
Even a softball team on the high school, you know,
Yeah.
must have been one. But yeah, we get flashbacks to him as a young kid, and his mother is like sort of dropping him off at a sort of the local baseball park where the kids go and play, and we learn that she's a bit of a con woman who tries to screw people out of money and even uses Mike to do it. Meanwhile, he wants to be a first baseman, but the coach, who I'll admit I wasn't sure where this was going at one point, because now it made sense when it turned out that it was actually his father, although that reveal felt very soap opera to me, so I
Yeah.
wasn't super into it. But at one point, because of the way he was talking to him, it made more sense once I found out it was his father. But there was an element of it that felt quite creepy before that reveal.
Yeah, I get that.
Whereas I wasn't really like, is this going to be a molestation storyline? Like I thought it might be going there because it felt kind of weird.
Yeah, I think that's almost a problem. It's like they played it like it was a twist, with this
Yeah,
reveal. It's like this probably would have just played better if we'd known from the start because we wouldn't have been.
because I was thinking
It
that.
felt off, didn't
Yeah,
it?
this guy just feels like he's been too. He's like he's giving this kid too much attention. He's hanging around with him after practice. It felt a bit weird. So don't get me wrong. Once I found out it was his father, I'm like, okay, fine. It wasn't creepy. It was actual bonding between a father and son. That's fine.
Yeah,
But the reveal itself felt so soap opera.
yeah,
Especially like I wouldn't have minded it actually as much if he'd already known.
mm,
And it was just us that were getting the surprise when she said, "That's your father." But when she immediately said, "Oh, I didn't want you to find out like this," I'm like, "What, really?"
yeah,
That's what made it feel very soap opera. So I
yeah.
wasn't super keen on the flashbacks this week.
Me either. Which is a shame because sometimes they're good.
Yeah, so sometimes they have been, but sometimes they've felt kind of forced, and I think this is one of the weaker sets of flashbacks. Hopefully, this isn't a sign that they're all. Well, the question I have now is how many characters are we going to get flashbacks for?
Yeah, I think it's a worry because now they've done this. I mean, we were kind of wondering how long they keep it going for, and then they did last week's where they flipped the formula around. It was really
Yeah.
effective.
Oh yeah, it worked really well last week.
And then now they're just gone, let's just give it to someone else. It feels already like just drop it. Just don't do this every week. If you don't have the story, don't give it me.
Yeah, I think the problem is that I think the characters are all fleshed out enough that adding all this extra stuff into their backstories to make these flashbacks interesting just it feels like it's piled on. It just feels like there's too much. Like,
Yeah, it's unnecessary, is what it
yeah,
is.
yeah, it's really unnecessary. But let's go to the present day plot, which obviously fared much better. I would
Oh, of
say.
course.
So we had two real plots going on here. It's Mike, of course, is feeling threatened by the new pitcher, who's came from Cuba. The one Oscar went and fetched um, before, and he's got a bad attitude. He's not showing up for practice, but he's still he's being really showy on the pitch. At one point, they're saying, "Why is he even bothering hitting home runs? We're already losing by 6 points. Like there's no point."
Yeah.
But he's like showboating. I did actually kind of like the touch that he was he was pretending to the press that he couldn't speak English so they didn't have to talk to them. That was kind of funny, actually.
It was backfired a bit though.
It did backfire a bit because Mike used it to his advantage to translate for him and make him look like an idiot later. But I did like this story for the most part because I feel like we'd seen like how Ginny was treated when she came on board, and I thought it was interesting to get this perspective of just another guy coming on to the team and him threatening one of the pre-established players. You know, because we've seen the previous pitcher who was the first one being kind of nasty to her and feeling threatened. So it was an interesting spin on it to just see it for normal, which, you know, we hadn't seen yet on this show.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it put it in perspective because, you know, it wasn't a million miles away from what we saw with Ginny.
No.
I mean, there were differences, of course.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what the point of the show was.
Yeah, I don't recall Ginny taking two men home at a bar when she was starting.
I do not either.
No.
But the point is, you know, the way they treated him, like as a threat, as an outsider, wasn't different.
Which, in a way, is a lot more justified here because of the way he acts. Like, Ginny was trying her hardest to fit in, and she was still being treated kind of poorly. Whereas here, he is kind of being hostile to them. He's not being a team player. He's not doing the same work as everyone else. He thinks he's a hot shot. To the point where when Mike actually shows him up a little bit and then gives him his little speech, you kind of still side with him. You're like, no, everything you're saying is kind of right. Sure, you're getting by just now playing while you're hungover and, you know, you're doing fine, but that won't last. The time will come when you're going to have to actually put in the work, and you're going to have to, if you want a long career, I think his exact words are 15 years. Maybe that's like your typical baseball career. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
If you start in your early mid-20s by the time you get to the majors, yeah. Sounds about right. But no, I was like, it was one of these things where the show's done this a few times where two characters will have an argument, but I'll clearly be on the side of one character because they'll clearly show me the reasons for the debate, why it's there, and even sometimes even more impressively, it's given me two sides of the argument where I'm like, I'm kind of seeing where they're coming from, but I'm also kind of seeing, whereas this one was more one-sided. It was like, no, like you're being a little shit right now, basically, and Mike's
there was a right and there was a wrong.
Yeah, Mike's putting you in your place.
I love my favourite moment with it was at the end where Oscar calls him out on the car, and he's like, "Oh, you boy with your bonus, did you?" Just what an idiot! Like, you know, come on,
amateur hour. Yeah, which was good to see. It was like, because I think Oscar doing that at the end, it was like, and him confronting him and pulling him up on his crap was like. Because Oscar can kind of seem confrontational with people when they try to go to him to like deal with things, and we see that in various places. But this is one where he knows there is a problem, and he knows he has to deal with it. And even though he went to him and like gave him this, we've seen this great, excuse the word, pitch when he tried to like get him on board. The sales pitch, not pitching pitch, and he. Don't shake your head at me. I wasn't even trying to make a pun. It was just the word that you would use.
I know, but the fact that you acknowledged it makes it worse.
What if the anthology, this show in season 2, is about a salesman? But no, Oscar doing this despite how it was basically groveling at a point when he went to go and get him.
Yeah, definitely.
So him like being like, no, look. Yes, you're a big get, and you're being treated like that, and you're a hot shot, but we're not going to put up with, X, Y, and Z. You're going to have to actually be a team player, and so on. So I thought that was a good thing. And of course, the other main plot of the episode is Ginny and her, which they finally said the word nude. Like, they hadn't been saying nude this whole, like, they just kept saying photos and selfies. So I didn't think it was nude.
I told you it was, didn't I? You
did say that. To be fair, you did say that. But because they never said it, they just said selfies, and I thought it was just because Ginny didn't want people knowing she dated a player. Whatever. You were right. I was wrong.
Aye. I love it when this happens.
Yeah, I know you do. But yeah, so they try and deal with it. Oh, and she's got a bobblehead. Minor plot point. So she's got a new bobblehead, which I'm only bringing that up because I really liked, once Amelia deals with the whole situation at the end, and she's been trying to nag Oscar into talking about the bobbleheads. That where he sort of concedes, right, okay, you've earned yourself a conversation about bobbleheads. Okay.
Bobbleheads are important.
Sure they are. But no, so they have this whole situation, and they know they're going to come out. They know they've only got a few days before they hit the internet, and they're trying to. How do we approach this from a media point of view? How do we approach this from a PR perspective? And very quickly, Ginny and Amelia both kind of come up with this plan, but we don't get to see what it is. Like they sort of play it close to their chest in terms of editing, and they don't show us what the actual plan is. I kind of quickly got what it was, like just from the way they have the idea, you know.
Yeah.
More or less, I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to happen, but like I knew whatever they were going to do, it was going to be. Now we'll put the guys on the equal footing and have them, because
and then get out in front of the story as well.
Yeah. So, no, I really liked that. I really liked the conversation between Amelia and Oscar though in his office, because that was another good example of both of them having valid points in the argument, and both of them, you know, like because he's right, she should have brought this to him.
Yeah, like they said, we have lawyers for exactly this sort of stuff.
Yeah, so that should have happened, and at the same time, though, he does, to use her word, mansplain.
I love that she goes, I always wanted to use that word. I have to.
Yeah. This is our first opportunity.
Yeah. I do think though it's interesting because obviously he says, it is wrong that you know you're treated differently on this stuff, but you are, and we have to it's not a good thing, but we have to. At the minute, this is the system, and we have to fight it on those terms. We can't just pretend it's not.
Yeah, because even if they say, oh yeah, well we'll just treat it as if, because like if this happened to one of the guy players, almost no one would even care that much.
Yeah.
And even if they all decided, oh, let's just treat it like that, the media wouldn't. The media would
exactly.
be all
no one
over
else
it.
is playing by those rules.
Yeah, they should be, but they're not.
Yeah.
So they have to deal with it this way. But it made for a nice uplifting moment when like Mike and Blip walked in and Ginny realised they were there to do the same thing. And then like half the team walked in and did a nude photo shoot. And it made for some fun little moments where they were kind of peeking at each other and so on. So this was an enjoyable enough episode with maybe a little bit too sweet with the message at the end. The whole sticking together, and I mean, it did counteract the other story kind of well because it was all about being a team player, sort of in two different sides of that.
Thematically, it tied together well, unlike a few that we've had.
Because obviously, this is the other end of it, where Ginny is now accepted as part of the team, and they're all willing to do something stupid like this to help her. Which, by the way, probably my funniest moment in the episode is when the newscaster is talking about this, because obviously we often cut to the news reporters reporting on this stuff, and it's the woman, and she's talking about so all the male team members did this as well, and you can tell by the smell on my face I'm happy they did. And it was her delivery of I'm happy they did and the look in her face that just cracked me up. There was something very, I don't know, something very funny about it.
It was amusing.
Yeah, it was like full on perv, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. And again, this is kind of those double standards we talked about. If a guy did that, it'd be kind of creepy.
It would.
And I would think it was creepy.
Yeah, exactly.
But when a woman does it, I kind of chuckle and go, huh.
Yeah. It is. That's the point in this, though. It isn't. Yeah. It works both ways, doesn't it?
It does for different things. And they shouldn't, but this is episodes kind of pointing out some of those differences and how we look at them differently and how we treat similar things from both sexes in completely different ways.
Yeah.
How one thing is completely okay for one, but completely not okay for the other. And unfortunately, typically it tends to more be that it's okay for the men and not okay for the women. There's a couple of exceptions, but it tends to, it's not an equal scale. It is weighed down.
Well, that's the thing. We're not condoning that. This is not a good thing.
Yeah.
But I like that the episode addressed it as this is the reality at the minute.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't pretending, because sometimes I find with things like this where they pretend that things are better than they are for the sake of their message.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't.
And I like that they go, no, there are problems. We just kind of have to. We can't change it right now with what we've got. We have to just work with it as a step.
Yeah,
That's essentially what they do here, isn't it?
Yeah, well, 'cause, I mean, Ginny's female player in the major leagues. Like this, the whole show is kind of one of the big steps to females being seen as more equal.
Yeah.
The whole thing is that, but it's not just going to change overnight. We're still going to have all this crap on
Yeah,
the
and
way.
they still have to work in that system in the time being with the PR and the photo shoot and stuff like that.
So just to swing back over to Mike for a second.
Yeah.
Of course, we end with him. He tries talking to Amelia a couple of times, and by the way, they have great chemistry whenever they talk to each other, and they kind of like flirt but don't flirt. But then he'll smirk and say, "Oh, you're basically flirting with me right now." Like, all that's really not. They have good chemistry, but he sort of jumps out on a dinner with Blip and Ginny to go and see his father, but he decides not to go in because his father's had other kids. He's got grandkids now. And he sort of chickens out. And we end on a really sort of... kind of similar to how we started, actually. Just him on his own with the same song playing.
Yeah.
And he almost calls Ginny to accept the dinner, but he puts the phone back down. It just gives you like where Mike is right now. And I'm fully expecting, if we do get a season 2, that he will take a manager or a coaching role next year.
Yeah, he'll definitely not be an active player.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Ginny's dig at him for catching the ball. She says, "Oh, it's surprising you because you remember the game ends with this big thing where the bases are all loaded, and she has to pitch, and she wants to try and get him to hit the ball so that it'll go to one of the bases, and Mike catches it, and he's notoriously bad for playing first base.
Yeah.
And when they're walking backstage, she says, "Yeah, it was equally surprising that you caught it," and then she like high fives the two guys behind her. Again, good little fun spirited moments.
Do you know what one of the other things I really liked was the coach.
Oh, taking Ginny out for dinner.
Yeah. Like it was like, let's just go out have fun. Yeah, we go have breaks. We go do other stuff. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah, I like that because that was one of the things that she wanted to pitch to take her mind off all the media stuff that she was going through, and he basically wanted to show no, like sometimes you have to like forget baseball exists and just go and enjoy yourself. I'm almost a little disappointed we didn't actually see some of the dinner.
Yeah, it could have been fun.
Could have been fun. Don't get me wrong, the scene with them on the bench in the hill looking at the city was nice, but yeah. But yeah, I'm loving Al. I think Al's relationship with Ginny's actually really strong and positive, and I think it's a good.
Yeah,
one.
it is.
Because I think when you have like an older character like that, you kind of expect that they'll be more reluctant.
Set in their ways.
Yeah, set in their ways. I wouldn't even say necessarily sexist or racist. Just he's older. Maybe he's more of a this is a man's sport kind of. This is just his ways.
Yeah, it's typical to think of older people as being less likely to accept change, no matter what that is, because they're so much more used to something for a longer period of time.
Yeah. They've had enough change throughout their lives, probably. By the time they get to their older years, they're maybe not as ready for more of it. But no, I think his relationship with her is really good. It's kind of uplifting every time they have a scene. Even when he's being hard on her and saying, no, look, you're not playing because X, Y, and Z. Like, he's like, look, no, you're working yourself too hard, we're going out. And he's becoming a proper TV dad, which I like.
He is, yeah.
I mean, he's not Rupert Giles, but... good TV dad, nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, can I correlate every character in this to a character on Buffy? Because Jenny's obviously
probably
Buffy.
Bloody could.
Jenny's obviously Buffy. That's just she's the picture. She's the vampire slayer. That's just obviously.
Let's not do this because you will do it.
Makes the catcher. I'm thinking Willow for him.
Kind of. Yeah.
Blip is Xander. Which makes Evelyn Anya.
See, I'd say she's more Cordelia.
Oh, I don't know. She's too nice.
She's got that
Cordelia.
yeah, she is, but she's got that real like sarcastic streak and stuff. Yeah.
Maybe. Al's obviously Giles.
Obviously.
Oscar Wesley, I guess. He's.
Yeah.
I guess.
I guess. A bit of an odd one there.
Yeah. I don't know.
Think about it and come back to me next week with a full comprehensive list.
The new catcher's Faith. There you go.
Aye.
Right, there you go. That's we're on a bit of a tangent there, but that's this week's pitch. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. We'll see you next time.